This is me upside down, because why not? So hey everyone, I've met most of you already, but I am a PhD researcher in the Fluid Interfaces group in the Media Lab, and these are some of the things I've been up to. So I was born in this little small town of about 100 people, 5 kilometers from the nearest supermarket. One other person within kind of my age, and everyone else was 45 plus, and there wasn't really a lot of like community in this space. And so this is in Denmark, in a little town called Højrup, which means town high up, and you might see one. Yeah, and there's like really no way to like, there was no maker spaces. I ended up like making everything out of like paper. I don't have a photo of it, but when I was 5 years old, I made like a robot my size just out of like paper. I had reptiles, so like, let's get some representation, not just cats and dogs. So I had these bearded dragons, and actually, you can't see it, but this terrarium, I made their terrarium, and so it's 180 centimeters long, and I also bought concrete and like made little like rocks for them and like everything in there, and little caves you could open and they would crawl into. So that was very fun. They didn't really use it, they would just sit under the heat lamp all the time, but it was a fun thing to do. I love books. I love reading philosophy. I did a degree in philosophy at the University of Copenhagen, mostly in philosophy of mind. So please, like, if you're interested, I'd love to talk. Most of my room, this is just like a snippet, but like if you go all the way around my room, you would just see books all the way around. And I don't know how I'm gonna move anywhere else with all of these books, but that's a problem for future me. So after I finished my philosophy degree, I started getting into new media art because I was always kind of fascinated with technology and emerging technologies, and in particular virtual reality. I wanted to get into that. And so this is a piece that we made, which was a performative piece where essentially you would have 8 different locations throughout Scandinavia where people would walk into these circles and then be in spaces together and having these like experiences with a performer. You can see in the orange space over there, moving around and dancing, and then you could interact and touch, and everything in the space, the narrative, and all the objects were conceptualized with very early generative models in, early as in like 3 years ago. When we started the project. I also worked on another project, which was also a virtual reality project so it was a fiction story, but it was about this guy who's Jewish who was fleeing Copenhagen. It's one of the longest VR experiences you can do. You sit in a boat and you hear him talk about his memories around when he was young and escaping from Copenhagen. And it's about an hour long. And we ended up winning the Venice Biennale for immersive narrative. And I also worked at a different art studio that was more focused around art with machine learning, where we were working with documentary filmmakers to essentially get thousands of hours of footage and then being able to, for anyone to walk up to this installation and then curate their own stories within this footage. So it could be focusing on a specific person that would appear through numerous shots of the footage, and then you could see how they developed through this footage that have been taken and so forth. But in my research, I mostly work in the intersection between AI and human cognition, and so I'll just highlight a few of those projects. This is perhaps my main project, which is called Wearable Reasoner. It's a device that listens to conversations and arguments and help you essentially understand if people are making logical fallacies, so that you can better kind of become aware of them and ask questions instead of being manipulated by these kind of like rhetorical tools a lot of people might use. So like there's been a lot of misinformation, especially like with COVID-19, and so this is a system that attempts to kind of help with thinking about some of those things. Cool. And this is just like a lovely animation that we did for it, just so people can see what's going on. But yeah, it's essentially using it's using natural language processing to identify those fallacies. And then there's a different project that I did actually as part of Neil's class, which was moving into the domain of neurostimulation. So it's kind of like a domain that I guess there's not a lot of people doing in the class, like stimulating themselves with electricity, or their brains with electricity. So we had a lot of concerns around that and trying to figure out a good way to do it. But essentially, this is a wearable system that stimulates your optical nerve, and it can make you, let me just, here, the way that it works is that it uses a distance sensor to regulate the frequency with which like the alternating current stimulation is happening on your brain. And what that kind of looks like is you wear this headband, and then there are sensors in the back. So let's say that you're in a place where someone might be sneaking up on you, and then in this case it would actually start stimulating your optical nerve non-invasively, and you would perceive these like flashes, and as this person or thing comes closer to you, the flashes will get more intense. So it's kind of like if you've ever seen Spider-Man, kind of like a spider sense thing. And it's very fun, and this is kind of the best way to portray what it looks like in a dark street in the middle of the night. And we tested it with robots, so to like, if there's like a robot apocalypse. Then I've also done a lot of work on AI-generated characters, and this was during the pandemic when we had to work from home and find alternative ways to do research. And so one of the things we thought a lot about was, can we use the likeness of someone to help people better learn? So for instance, you can imagine if you're studying physics, you might be able to have a lecture where it seems as if Einstein is teaching this lecture to you. And we actually ran studies with this tool, and we found that when people are having these lessons by someone that they admire, they're actually more motivated to learn, which is great. So we see that essentially you can use different teachers. So
today we will learn about quantum mechanics.
Today we will learn about quantum mechanics.
Today, we will learn about quantum mechanics.
So really, like, you don't have to learn from Einstein. If you like Harry Potter and you like quantum mechanics, we can hook you up. The next step from this is actually we went a step further. Instead of just giving someone the likeness, we were thinking, what if you could take someone's journals or someone's reports or diaries and actually make that data interactive in order to help people better learn about people of the past. So we did this project, which is essentially looking through all of Leonardo da Vinci's journals, and then based on the questions that you ask him, it's going to take different parts of the journal, and then it's going to use a generative model to answer your question and keep a dialogue. And it's very fun. So here's an example. Hello, who are you?
Hello, I am Leonardo da Vinci, an Italian polymath of the High Renaissance, active as a painter, draftsman, engineer, scientist, theorist, sculptor, and architect.
Right. Oh, oops. That was a little too fast. But essentially what the system does is it doesn't just answer the questions, but it also gives you the sources so that if you want to dive deeper into the details, you can see here. This is the part of his of the journals that we are using, which is the introduction. That it's drawing the information from, but it does all of this automatically. And essentially, if you want to, you can give it your own diaries, and you can have an interactive version of yourself.